Hello, guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Skills and Abilities. Today, we're going to be looking over one of the more popular assassin abilities for everybody, and not just the assassin, which is silly, but everybody can use it, including you, probably in real life, if you had a treachery armor anyway. It's known as Fade. Fade is a rather interesting one that actually had a hidden debuff, or sorry, hidden buff that people didn't know about until recently when they fixed the tooltip, which is actually pretty cool. I like the fact that they fixed the tooltip. I'm not gonna lie, because I very much so have always been against like hidden sort of things like that newer players don't innately know. There's just something kind of like negative about having something within a game that is not something that, like a person would innately know. That there's no way to figure that out by yourself unless you literally, are told. And in Diablo 2 Resurrected, you actually could figure it out because they added a special panel, an advanced panel that would show you information like this. So it was actually something that you could see in Diablo 2 Resurrected, but in Diablo 2 there was no way to know. You just had to look it up or be told. If you weren't told, you just didn't know. And that is the physical damage reduction that is added onto the ability. I know there was a long way around my elbow to reach my butt cheek, but whatever. Uh, So Fade is a very amazing ability that increases your resistance to all resistances, except magical, of course. It reduces the curse duration by 80%, which is a pretty sweet amount. And as you level it up, it actually goes up. And it also applies 1% physical damage reduction per level, every level upwards. So as you level it up, the higher it gets. As you can see now, I'm at 36% physical damage reduction, which is kind of insane. And to show you that it actually works, all I have to do is just look at my physical damage reduction, which is currently 8%, cast the ability, and now I'm at 44%. So 44 plus 8 is 36 plus 8 is 44%, which is my current physical damage reduction. So I'm only 6% away from hitting the 50% physical damage reduction cap. Now, you can go over the 50% physical reduction cap. It won't actually give you any more than 50%, but if a monster uses amplify damage or decrepify or something like that on you, it will act as a overprotection counter, which will try its best to keep the physical resistance at your cap. So like say for instance you were cursed with Decrepify. Right now it would bring me down to negative 6% physical damage reduction because the 50% would cancel out the 44 completely and then reduce me down to negative 6. However, if I had 100% physical damage reduction, capped at 50, of course, and somebody cursed me, it would bring me down by 50% to 50%, and I would still technically be at my cap. So having over 50% physical damage reduction is not exactly a terrible thing. Now, Fade is one of those abilities that's just highly defensive. Not only does it give you a huge bonus to your resistances, not only does it give you a huge bonus to your physical damage reduction, it also reduces the duration of curses that are cast upon you. So, for instance, if I had like Decrepify cast on me, which is a 4-second curse, and I have an 87% reduction in curse duration, then that 4-second curse becomes basically a 1-second curse, and it doesn't last very long at all, which is absolutely great. There is a unfortunate downside of Fade, and this is that shrines actually have their duration reduced. So if I click on a shrine while Fade is active, it will reduce the duration of the shrine rather dramatically. And I can show you this just by simply clicking on it and kind of running around. This shrine will disappear in some record time. I believe the normal duration for shrines is like, I think it's 3 minutes, I want to say. But as of right now, I currently have a negative 87% reduction, which means that 3 minutes is going down to something like 30 seconds, as you can see, which is pretty terrible. It was gone relatively fast. Now, if I grab... I have 1 life. I just realized I have 1 life. That's beautiful. No wonder I died. I was running around with 1 life for quite some time there. That was glorious. I have one life to live. Now, if you take fade off before you click on the shrine, which the only way you can do that is to cast Burst of Speed. So this is the same shrine, has the same duration as a normal shrine. If I cast Burst of Speed first, then click on the shrine, then restore my fade, the duration of this shrine will actually be a normal duration. And this is because fade only reduces the duration of a curse if it's active when the curse or the shrine is applied to the actual character, which means that you can avoid the very short shrines by simply turning fade off before you click on the shrine, which really only costs you 2 casts. It costs you, number 1, the Burst of Speed to actually overwrite your fade and turn it off, and then it costs you 1 more cast of the fade to restore it. And you only have to do that right before you click on it. So all you have to do is just right before you click on the shrine, you turn your Burst of Speed on, which disables fade, then click on the shrine, and then activate your fade again, which will prevent the huge reduction in duration. As you can see, my mana regeneration is still up, despite the fact that I've had fade up for quite some time and recast it twice, because the duration of this particular shrine is not being cut down by fade. Unfortunately, if you can't cast Burst of Speed to overwrite fade, then you're in a different scenario. So like, for instance, if you're using Treachery or any of the other items that have fade, and there are actually quite a few, by the way, which I feel like I should probably mention. Spirit Ward Shield, which is actually incredibly rare. If you ever find one, I would really like one, because I haven't found one ever. Like, literally ever. It has a level 8 fade, which is a 5% chance to proc when you are struck. And Spirit Ward Shield is like incredibly rare, though, so good luck after actually ever finding one. Last Wish, which is a rune word, has an level 11 at a 6% chance. Again, incredibly rare, because Last Wish has literally multiple bird jaw runes in it. So good luck getting your hands on that one also. And then the easiest one to come by, which is the one that people usually use, is Treachery, which is a very cheap armor that you can make, and it has a level 15 fade with a 5% chance when struck. Now, one of the most common ways to get that to proc is just to stand in the fire in Act 4. It works very well. Just go to River of Flame, and there's two fire like torches there, and you just stand in the fire until the effect procs. And of course, the level of the fade has specifically to do with the physical damage reduction. So you know exactly how much physical damage reduction is by the level. Treachery is level 15, so it's a 15% physical damage reduction. Last Wish is level 11, so it's 11%. And the Spirit Ward Shield has level 8, so it's 8% physical damage reduction. Now, when it comes to this ability, it does scale quite nicely for a little while, until eventually it kind of just peters out in terms of resistances. But just because it peters out in terms of resistances doesn't mean it's really not worth putting points into. So interesting enough, when it comes to fade, because the physical damage reduction never stops rising, every single point is still going to be worth something no matter what. So let me see if I can show you this.
Can't use this yet.
I need to take off the claws.
Impossible.
So as you put points into it, you'll notice that it starts out with level 11 with only 1 point, by the way, is 56% resist all. And as you raise it up, it goes up fairly nicely in terms of resistances, but it does kind of hit a hard block around like 67%, which starts at level 24. And if you bring it up above level 24, like, you'll notice that it just kind of stops at 67%, and it doesn't really go up. And eventually it will go to 68, but then it gets locked at 68 for quite a while, and then it gets locked at 69. And it doesn't really kind of rise as much as on the elemental resistances. However, unlike Burst of Speed, which has a similar issue, Fade does have that 1% physical damage reduction per point, no matter what. So if you drop 20 points into it, you've got 20 points of physical damage reduction. If you have plus 10 skills, you've got another 10% physical damage reduction. And it continues to rise, and it's going to continue to make you tankier and stronger against those physical damage monsters as you put more points into it, or as you get more plus to skills. So unlike Burst of Speed, which I usually recommend you don't bring up above like level 23, 24, Fade doesn't really matter. Even though the Resist All does start to have a diminishing returns, and even though the curse reduction does start to have diminishing returns, the physical damage reduction continues to rise with every single point that you put in it, which makes it extremely useful to have as many points into Fade as you can dump in there if that's what you want. Now, obviously, you're going to have to choose, and I think this is the most important thing when it comes to these abilities, is that on the Assassin, you're really choosing between Fade and Burst of Speed. And now that we have the Hustle rune word, which is going to be added in 2.6, which allows us to have Burst of Speed on basically any character now. And then we have Treachery, of course, which allows us to have Fade on any character. This means that we essentially have a choice between Burst of Speed or Fade on any character that we want throughout the game. So you now have to choose. Do you want the increased resistances? Do you want the increased physical damage reduction? Do you want the curse reduction? Or would you rather have the increased run walk speed and the attack speed? Because that's what these two choices represent. It's essentially offense versus defense. And Fade is primarily and majorly a defensive maneuver. Now, the curse reduction duration is actually amazing. I want to stress this one as much as possible. You're going to get cursed a lot in this game. Tons and tons of monsters are going to curse you. You got amplified damage curses, you've got weakened, you've got all sorts of crazy things going on, like the blood curses, and you've got, freaking. I used to have Iron Maiden back in the day, but not anymore. Decrepify. We've even got lower resistance curses, and all of these curses are just nasty. And as a regular player who has to deal with those curses, you're constantly, in danger. Like, you get into a group of monsters that's mighted and they're extra strong, and then somebody throws amplified damage on you, and you literally run and scream like a little girl because you just know that an extra strong mighted pack with amplified damage on you is going to demolish you, right? But having a curse reduction of 85% means that the majority of the time you will be curse free, which is a very powerful effect. If you've never utilized cleansing on the paladin, which has a similar curse reduction, it is absolutely amazing to be able to run around and not have curses on you on a regular basis. And I know a lot of you might be saying, well, it also reduces shrines. But as I just showed you earlier, you can avoid the negative effect from the shrines just by simply using that one trick where you cast Burst of Speed, click on the shrine, and then recast Fade. I think that's pretty much it, and I do think Fade is going to have some competition coming up with Hustle. I think that people are going to be choosing a lot more between Burst of Speed and Fade. And as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when I just simply fade away.